Thank you. Thank you. I realize I'm the only thing between you and lunch, so I will try not to get too long-winded on you. I think it would help to provide you a very, very brief history of Laserfiche and the City of Fontana to help put into perspective what we've done in the past year. And it might sound familiar to a lot of you in the organization, or a lot of your organizations. I came to the city in 2005 actually as a consultant to try to bail the city out of an ERP disaster. In March of 2006, I was hired on as the director for the IT department, and I actually had to implement the recommendations that I had made as a consultant, probably a consultant's worst nightmare. So that was a pretty scary transition for me. It's easy as a consultant, you just tell them what to do and then you go away. Laserfiche had already been installed and operating for many years when I had gotten there, but it was really only an imaging system. They were just taking pictures of paper and putting them onto the repository. Part of the problem was nobody could find anything. The templates were not thorough, were not complete or correct. So it was really sort of a back-end system that very few people used, and almost no one had confidence in. In 2008, we created a project called Citywide Document Records Management. And that turned out to be the tip of a very big iceberg that we had to try to tackle. The project is ongoing even today. Obviously, we've extended it far beyond our original project timeline, but I can share some lessons learned in that process of how that project has changed. And I think it will help you as you consider implementing some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. First of all, document management is an enterprise-level project that must have executive commitment in order to succeed. It cannot be done by the city clerk, it cannot be done by IT, it's got to be done by the city. The city clerk is an integral part of the project team. Now again, I'm speaking as a local government organization, but whoever is your records manager or in charge of your records, they are integral to be part of the team. It is not, I repeat, not an IT project. There must be a current records retention policy and schedule in place in order to start. You need to have an idea, first of all, what kind of documents do I have and do I need to keep? Second, how long do I need to legally keep them? Again, government perspective, but that is something that is essential to even start the project of document management. Forget records management, just the document management. You cannot do document management without workflow. If you think that you're going to be able to do a usable document management project and not implement workflow, not look at document lifecycle, where does the document start? Where does it go? Where does it end up? That's document workflow. It's integral to being able to use a so-called ECM, Enterprise Content Manager, like Laserfiche. Bless you. The project team needs to meet with all of the stakeholders, each department in our case. My team is here. I've got my business analysts that are handling both my PD and the City Hall records, and we have our city clerk's office is represented too. So, these are the people who've actually been in the trenches. I've just been taking all the credit, so I've got the good part of that job. But what Christina has been doing with the city clerk over the past year has been scheduling meetings with every single department to review what documents they have, how they are accessed, when they need to be accessed, who accesses them, who needs to know how to use this system, and what is their frame of reference in terms of retrieval. You might look at a document and say, oh, I just know the council meeting date that was put on, and so that's all I need is the council date. Well, maybe vendor, maybe subject, there may be a bunch of other things that other people would look for to retrieve a document by. So that conversation has to be had with every single department, and it is amazing how much variety and how much misinformation. I think the city clerk was even surprised at, she's looking at the information from her perspective. But when she hears from the departments how they look at those same documents, I think it's important in structuring that template and the folder structure inside Laserfiche to know how people are using and retrieving those documents. And as I said, restructuring, it's probably going to be necessary. And in our case, I think we've restructured it at least 2 times and probably are going to do it 1 more time. Because as you begin to use it more, you begin to find out a more efficient structure. That's why coming to a conference like this is so useful, because you learn tips and tricks and techniques about your folder structure organization in order to help you. So now on to the topics at hand here. We were looking for some low-hanging fruit. Obviously, when you take on a city-wide project like this, and you are trying to get everybody to buy into a system that has been pretty much disregarded for 15 years, we needed to find some quick wins. We had to find some of the low-hanging fruit, as it were. So that way we could get those people to buy in and give them some good positive examples. So the 3 things that we have done so far that seem to have helped us enormously in terms of establishing the credibility of the technology and of Laserfiche is a water billing automation system, a timesheet recording automation. Oops, excuse me. Yes, we still do paper timesheets. That's a whole other subject, but trust me, it's all paper, all paper. And then a public-facing project repository, which is an interesting project for those of you who are getting inundated with public records requests. Okay. Our water billing company, Fontana Water, does not offer electronic billing. A little bit of a strained relationship between Fontana Water and the city, but nonetheless, they only offer paper billing. And our poor accounts payable clerk was having to take dozens of these water bills, because we have 40 locations throughout the city, 31 I think actually, locations throughout the city, and water meters all over the place, and of course a separate bill for each meter. So she was having to transfer that information onto an Excel spreadsheet, figure out the account code that went with it, and then upload it to our financial system. And that was a tedious process, to say the least. The approach that we came up with, when I say we, I mean my staff, when AP gets the water bill from in the mail, they arrange them for scanning. We have a scan center. This is something we just implemented a couple of years ago. Very, very good idea. I know it's hard. We have 12 departments, and each department likes to do things their own way. Getting them to relinquish and sending their stuff to a scan center was really huge for us. And it helps. Those scan center people know Laserfiche, they know quality control, they are trained to be able to do the templatization appropriately, so it really does help to have that group that you can send those documents to. So the scan center takes those water bills and running quick fields over it, populates the template automatically from quick fields. So those templates are already in. workflow does a database and does a back-end lookup to figure out what account codes go with each address on the bill. Then AP will verify, and let me see if I can find my sample here. Oh, I know it's on the next thing. This is what the AP group will see. All those circled fields are the ones that were picked up by Quick Fields, and they validate that, and then they that generates an Excel spreadsheet that goes straight into the batch input for our finance system. To say that the accounts payable clerk is our friend is an understatement. She now, Christina, how long does it take her to do this? About 20 minutes?
Our accounts payable clerk basically just does the upload. It literally takes her like 1 minute to take care of that now, where it used to take her about an hour.
Yeah. Okay, so we have won a friend, and now she's looking for other areas where she can use Laserfiche and save herself some time and effort. She was one of our skeptics, too. She was probably one of our most technophobic users, and now she is one of our biggest fans. So it has been cathartic in a sense. Obviously, we reduced AP staff time. A little bit more work for the scan center, but now we're using scanning staff, not AP staff, who should be doing AP type stuff. And we reduce the time it takes to get that billing information into the finance system. And we do have a document here, and I will include it in the materials here. This is a document that explains all of what they do. It's very well documented. Christina did a marvelous job in explaining exactly how the process works. So this will be included in the materials that we'll post for this session. So. Let's see. Oops, wrong one. Oh, I just closed it. That was dumb. There. Okay. So what do you want me to do with? Oh, this is the wrong one. Excuse me.
It's kind of funny. It makes you.
Sorry. Oh, I see. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. There we go. Okay. This is the documentation. Sorry, I didn't realize it was on display mode. Okay, going back, oops, excuse me. There we go. All right. Timesheets. All right, this was Robert is my senior analyst over the PD department. We have 4 IT folks in the PD department, and he's in charge of that whole group, and he came up with this solution, which was a huge problem. We have police officers, obviously, 3 shifts, about 300 timesheets every 2 weeks. And what was happening is they were making copies of every timesheet and then filing them in file drawers, just in regular file drawers. And then when or if a dispute occurred, they would have to dig through and find those documents that were related. Well, not only do you have the time it takes to copy and file, but the retrieval was taking 2 hours for them to get the documents behind a particular employee's payroll to go back and try to dig out all the necessary transactions. So that was a very significant problem. Well, instead of copying the timesheets, what they're doing now is scanning them into a folder. QuickFields then is run against the scanned timesheets to populate the template. and then store that in Laserfiche. We obviously know the pay period, we know the employee name, the employee number, we have all that information that can be easily picked up by quick fields and then posted into the template. This is what our timesheets look like. They are a nightmare. Anyway, you can see that if you look at up here, these are printed, these are pre-printed, so that at least that much is automated, so that the quick fields can pick up that data fairly consistently. I don't know, did we ever run what a percentage accuracy is on that?
Well over 90%.
Okay, so it's pretty reliable. What's happened, obviously reducing paper consumption, that's enormous. Reducing the file storage space requirements, just the file drawers alone is space issues. Staff time in retrieval has gone from hours to literally seconds. And we have a complete documentation, and I have also included all the documentation on this in our information packet, so if anybody is interested, you can look through that. Okay, last item. Let me get through my notes here. Excuse me. Paper. Hate paper. Robert was giving me a hard time today because I was looking at my schedule on paper instead of on my smartphone. And I'm supposed to be the IT director. Oh well, I'm old. Okay, public records. I don't know how many of you are most of you public sector, city type people, or, okay, and any of you in the public sector know that we are seeing an explosion in public records requests. The public, government transparency, all that kind of stuff going on, the public wants to know, and they want to know everything. So we're getting inundated with a lot of requests. Obviously, the problem is that every request takes time to fulfill. We are, in California, we have a 10-day response requirement. We have to give the response to the requester within 10 days. There are certain circumstances that would be extended, but most of the time it's within 10 days. We had Walmart. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Walmart. Developer come in and wanted to put two Walmart buildings in the city of Fontana. I don't know if you realize this, but Walmarts are very controversial in a city because they claim they take away from local businesses, and they have these big box stores which are sometimes architecturally ugly. So it generates a lot of angst among the public. So we knew that when this Walmart project was going to come in, that we better gear up, because one of the tactics of the anti-Walmart people was to inundate the city clerk with public records requests, just to throw a monkey wrench into the gears. So, obviously we needed to identify what is a public record. What are the things that the public is going to ask for and that we are by law required to give them, and we needed to identify those things. Obviously, we needed to scan and index all of those records through the Record Center. We created an Outlook button. Outlook is our mail client that we have, so that if our planners and our development group got any kind of email relating to the Walmart project, they could just click a button and that email would then get routed to the Laserfiche repository that we were going to expose to the public. Obviously, we needed to process it through the legal team for redaction, because some things obviously need to be redacted and you can't put everything out there. So we needed workflow. Back to workflow again. We wanted to make sure that we had everything related to Walmart posted on the city website so that when a public records request came in, the city clerk could say, go to the website, click on this link, and all the documents are there. Those are all the documents I can give you. They're already there and ready. And by the way, you can print them, you can do whatever you want with them, but don't bother me. We also use social media and Facebook to, again, try to get out in front of it. The lawyers actually really like this idea, because by getting in front of the issue, we aren't being reactive, we're being proactive. So this was a huge sort of cultural change for how we deal with public records. This is the Outlook button that we put on there. There's a little tab up here that says send email to Laserfiche, but it's not the typical Laserfiche email interface. This is the one that actually captures the email, captures the attachments, puts it into a workflow that then goes to the attorney, it comes back to the city clerk, and the city clerk can then forward it on to the public-facing repository with all of the appropriate metadata behind it. So this is our Outlook button. We created the web page portal. It was for we started with the Walmart project, but we anticipate that this will be used for any high-profile project that the city is going to go forward with. We're going out to bid right now to get a general plan update consultant. We're going to be updating our general plan. That's going to have a huge amount of public engagement. So we'll likely be putting another similar portal up for that. We have frequently asked questions. So as questions are being submitted to the planning department, to the city clerk or whoever, we'll try to populate that and build that as it goes on. Calendar announcing public hearings, so people can plan for those things, and then news flashes that announce those public meetings and other major milestones in the project. Again, trying to be proactive and avoid any appearance of trying to hide information or bury it and make it difficult to get to. This is our portal on our city website. We actually have there, as I said, there were two Walmarts, Walmart's North and Walmart South. Going into the project itself, this describes a little bit about what's being proposed, and then to click on either one of these, you can see all of the public documents that were related to that project. This is our Facebook posting. Again, using both Twitter and Facebook to keep the public apprised. Now, Fontana has a kind of a oops, what did I just do? Oh, sorry about that. Our demographic is interesting in that we don't have a lot of internet savvy citizens. The demographic is probably mostly Hispanic, not mostly, it is 67% Hispanic. And typically, our citizens don't go to the internet to get their information. They'll come down to City Hall. That's changing. As all the millennials start coming into adulthood, we're beginning to see that social media and Twitter and the website are becoming more and more part of their lifestyle. But that has never been huge for us. We see it growing, and I imagine as we start using it more for these kinds of projects, we'll get better engagement as we go on. This is the Laserfiche survey for your, I guess, rating of this. And look at that. Not even 11:30. So we'll get you a running start at lunch. Open it up for questions. I've got the people here who can answer the tough ones. Yes?
So when you were showing your forms from the water company, the invoice, it seemed that the information was pretty tight. Did you have a problem with Quickfields picking it up?
I know that it took a lot of tweaking to get it done, but Laserfiche doesn't care, or the Quickfields doesn't care how small it is. It's more how legible it is. Christina, who's standing behind you, that be?
It was actually.
Why don't you take the mic?
It was actually a challenge to get the fields because they were small, and some of the issues that we had was document shifting, so we had to allow some space above and below if there was any type of document shifting. We used a lot of pattern matching, a lot of regular expressions to kind of help pick up numbers off of the fields. But after testing with several versions, we were able to find a good DPI that worked for us, and sometimes we will have issues picking up the meter number because it's a really tight space, but using the pattern matching really helped us out.
So we did this in my town with vouchers for the finance department because of the extensive FOIL request. They wanted to be able to retrieve electronically. What we ended up having to do was we actually just redid their form. It was easier to do that than, I guess, to go through everything that you did, too, because we couldn't pick it up.
When we were trying to do it without the pattern matching, we weren't having much success, but once we started doing regular.
The pattern matching, okay.
That's when we really our accuracy for our water invoices is over 95%.
So then my other question is, when you were showing the timesheet, although they're pre-printed, people are filling them in with pen, aren't they?
Right, they fill out their time. We aren't recording their time.
You're not recording their
The time is not going into the payroll system. The only thing we're doing is just recording the sheet itself for legal purposes, because it's a legal document and we're storing the.
So for
but we-
retrieval okay, so it's just the image.
Right, right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
I actually had two questions. One had to do with interacting with your attorneys who are off-site and the emails. If you could give, I'm unclear as to whether or not they're remoting in and using Laserfiche, or if documents are being sent to them in a secure manner, or how that's happening.
They actually have a Laserfiche user account, right?
Correct. They remote into our environment via VPN. So our workflow will send them an email to their email address that they use on a day-to-day basis. And then when they get that email, then they go ahead and remote into our environment via VPN. And then they go ahead and make the approval and the redaction in our environment.
Thank you. And my second question has to do with your public portal. We're kind of grappling with that right now and trying to make the decision if we're going to have a second repository that's read-only for the public versus the standard repository. I'm just curious.
That's
as to-
exactly what we have. We created a separate repository that was public-facing. Well, actually, what it does, it points back into our standard repository, correct?
It's actually, we actually grappled between the two ideas, and what we ended up deciding to do was, we only have one repository, and what we did was, with permissions, we created shortcuts to a folder that is public facing, and they're locked out of all of the other folders. So if you go into our environment, you're looking at our single repository, but they're locked out via permissions on all the other folders and all the other content.
Okay, that's what we were those were the two options we were looking at. Thank you.
At the County of Riverside, we also have a public-facing portal for our customers. And what we actually end up doing is we have one repository for our agency, our Transportation and Land Management Agency. And from there, we actually have one folder that's public-facing, and that's the folder that we set the permissions on, similar to the way that they do it. And that's the folder that the public sees. And whenever we want to add a folder to it, what we'll do is or add a folder to view to the public, what we'll do is we'll just add those permissions to that folder. We have a service account, and that's what we add permissions to. So.
I was gonna ask you, you mentioned on your timesheets that that the document was legal, you didn't use it to put the hours in the payroll. So you have to have a physical document. You guys can't, like, cause how we do it internally, I work for MCCI, we built a internal form that allows us to submit our timesheet. So I'm here in LA and the office is back in Tallahassee, Florida, which is 2,000 miles away, but I want to get paid on today. So Tuesday, when I landed here, I was like, I can't go and fill out a timesheet. So we have an internal process that I pull up forms on my phone, and I can submit my payroll via forms, and it'll submit my.
I can only dream. No, we actually have a payroll time entry project ongoing right now, and yeah, but the biggest problem with payroll, imagine our poor payroll department. They have to take all that paper and manually enter the hours into the payroll system.
Yeah, and
every 2 weeks.
That's how ours was, and we have about 15 remote employees, so everybody trying to submit this. And we used to do it via email, but that became inefficient. So I was tasked with the job of building a form and making it so that it routes to each. So when you click on the form, it'll take your authenticated user information. It'll have your name on it, your employee number.
So you're using a pseudo electronic signature is what you're doing.
Yeah, and you submit it. You click who your supervisor is, submit your hours, and you can submit vacation time, any kind of comments, and that'll go to directly to them. And my second question was with the FOIA request, public records request. We were receiving clients were talking to us about this all the time, like, hey, do you know anything that could help us with FOIA requests? Because a spike happened, I don't know where it came from, and we built a board of people, so of existing clients, and actually built a just FOIA request, open records request management system that allows you to, anybody, if a citizen puts in a records request, it allows whoever, the city clerk, to get the records request via email from workflow. It assigns that person a number, whoever the citizen is, because some people put in requests just to be, create issues.
Be annoying.
And they don't have to, in some states, they don't have to give their number, their name, or email, or anything. So it gives them a request number. And so via that, the city clerk can assign it to each department. So if the IT department is involved, the budget department is involved, whoever is involved, they will receive a workflow email, say, hey, we have a records request, you need, so it was really interesting, the process that we went through.
Well, we're a city of 200,000, not terribly large, but last year we had 384 public records requests, which is pretty small. Yeah. So the public record request issue is not a big thing, and I think if it does grow, if it continues to grow, we probably will be looking for something similar to that. But this was really for the high-profile projects.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to make it for everything, but for things that are going to be high-profile, such as the Walmart thing. And oh, by the way, Walmart has withdrawn their application, so now we've got it up there and nobody's using it.
We had one of our clients in the city of Naples, Florida. They are about 300,000.
Right, I know where Naples is, yeah.
They actually were receiving upwards of 2,000 requests a year. So,
wow.
And it started from, they were 500 one year, and then 1,500, and then 2,000. And it's steady climbing. So they were the main clients that were like, do you guys know anything? And so we actually had to go and build just for you open records request management. And now we have majority of our Laserfiche clients, because it's integrated with Laserfiche, and we don't have that question anymore. So
Right, yeah, and
I think the way that you've done it is a great.
yeah, it gives us an opportunity to be proactive and to come across to the public that we are trying to be responsive and not trying to hide anything, but rather, hey, if it's anything that you're allowed to see, it's there, and with respect to that particular project. Yeah, so that's definitely the case.
In terms of ROI, return on investment in reduced budget dollars freed up, could you talk?
Well, in the public sector, it's very hard to deal with those so-called soft dollars. We didn't eliminate any positions. We simply freed up time that the accounts payable clerk is doing something else now. So she is able to do other stuff that before she wasn't able to get to. So, and there's no measurable dollar savings. Now, with the timesheets, obviously the scanning and the paper consumption alone, if you're looking at, what, 600 times or 300 times 52, that's how many sheets of paper were being saved, and at a cost of about 5 cents a page on copy, and that's real dollars.
And you
So
said
I don't know
there-
what the PD is using those dollars for now, but I'm sure they've come up with, I think body cameras maybe.
And you said the retrieval went from hours to seconds.
That's
So,
correct.
that's
Yeah,
great.
and again, we didn't save any positions, we didn't reduce staff, so those dollars are buried somewhere else in the organization, but ostensibly, they're doing something better than what they were doing before.
When you look at the timesheets, it's the payroll clerk that does that, and that's the same clerk who does our alarm billings. So having her not take as much time to deal with timesheet discrepancies and actually do alarm billings more quickly,
Generates more revenue.
that generates more revenue.
Yeah, good point.
Do you process other invoices through Laserfiche as well, in addition to the water billings?
We haven't yet to date, we have not, but I think, well, for example, our Edison, our electric bill is already electronic. So when we are able to get electronic billing, then that solves that problem. I'm sure the accounts payable clerk is going to be looking to us to solve other similar kinds of problems. And we are looking invoice processing, which is a whole separate issue. We are looking at that, and I've seen a number of Laserfiche customers that have come up with some very creative invoice processing solutions. And there again, we are still in paper. I get an invoice, and believe me, in an IT department, I get dozens of invoices every day. I get an invoice, send it to accounts payable, who sends it back to me, who sends it, my clerk tries to round up the shipping receipts, proof of delivery, all that kind of stuff, gives it to me to sign, physically sign. She has a little stamp, ink stamp. I have to physically sign it, give it back to her, who then carries it over to the accounts payable clerk, which is in a different building. Paper, all paper. If you don't think I want to change that, so that is going to be one of the things. Unfortunately, I've got Christina so inundated with other projects that that's probably a couple down the stack, but it is something we are looking at, definitely. Any other? Oh, got one over here.
I was just wondering what accounting software we use and how that integrates.
Yes, what accounting software are we using? We are using something called, from SunGuard Public Sector, it's called Penimation. Probably one of my least favorite vendors and products. It was developed in 1981 and warmed over several times. It is not a fun thing, but one of the things we are doing now with the new release of that software, they have attachments in the, every time you do a PO, you've got quotes and all that kind of stuff that goes along with your PO. What we are doing, even as we speak, is we are taking those attachments that the software actually puts into a file folder. We're pointing Laserfiche workflow to that file folder to suck it into Laserfiche. Then we had the vendor develop a web link call that will go look for that attachment in Laserfiche instead of the folder that it put it in originally. So very soon, all of our attachments to our finance system will be in Laserfiche. They are not now, they are in file folders. And of course, we can't apply retention rules to it. Searching is very difficult. And now it's, when they go into Laserfiche, we can search by amount, by vendor, by buyer, by whomever, and it makes it much easier. Yes.
I'm sort of in a unique situation in that I live in a rural community up at a ski area, and our entire county is less than 10,000 people. One of our biggest problems is second homeowners, and for example, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 30 below zero, and somebody's water pipe breaks, and the PD is out there trying to figure out who to call. So we've been envisioning a process with the public portal where anyone can retrieve public information like, well, a person's contact information might not be public, but say the PD could log in and get contact information, or if somebody wanted to pull building permits from that particular property or whatever. So we were looking at integrating our GIS system with this public portal and with Laserfiche. And not necessarily you, but has anyone come up with a solution where someone can log into the public portal and access that type of information?
Yeah, while she's taking the microphone over there, yes, we do have we have some GIS information linked to Laserfiche with information from the map. So you can click on a parcel and get some information about it on the map. But we do not have citizen login capabilities. I just don't want to get into the business of trying to maintain passwords for 78,000 people.
So my town, I'm the town clerk, we have 500,000 residents. What was established, local law requiring a person to register a vacant building. Now, if they don't, there's a fee to register, and if they don't, there's a larger fine. Since your homeowners, it may be vacation homes, maybe there's a way to do something similar where they voluntarily register their property. We require them to do it. You know, there's a lot of foreclosures. Banks own a lot of homes that they're not doing anything with by us, and that's what they've instituted. We're the second town on Long Island to do it. And my office is charged with keeping the record. We're not using Laserfiche to do it, though. And they did create public access where people could report a vacant property. And we get all the information, contact information, who the bank is, who the insurance company is, a lot of information. But it's something to think about. If there's a way for Laserfiche.
We have a product we call Access Fontana, which is a citizen-facing. It's both on our website and it's a smartphone app. You've probably seen them in a lot of cities where a citizen can carry on certain kinds of transaction. They can report graffiti. They can report abandoned vehicles. They can do a number of things on this. In our case, that system is tied into our work order system, so that when a citizen calls in graffiti, it goes immediately, generates a work order, the crew goes out, fixes the graffiti, sends the pictures over to PDs for putting into a regional database, and then the citizen gets automatically notified that has been fixed. So it's all that back-end workflow, but it's a citizen-facing thing. Now, this particular application does have the ability to put widgets on it, and you could do a widget if you know, the biggest thing is not getting the information from the city, it's having the workflow behind it to get the project done, whatever it is that you need to do. So, there are probably a number of ways to do it, both in and out of Laserfiche. I saw a presentation this morning on Laserfiche forms that it would seem that would be. But when you need to authenticate the user, that's when it gets a little sticky, because that means they have to pre-register. And usually when things like this occur,
We just wanted a guest account for the public. And
yeah.
for public information, and then authentication for the PD, which,
Oh, okay.
we have a very small PD. but-
Yeah, well, this kind of Access Fontana, actually, the product is called Public Stuff. And that's what we use for citizen reporting. And, we do a number of different things, but one of them is for graffiti, and okay. Anything else?
Any other questions? All right.
No, you still got 15 minutes to get to lunch. Thank you.